Hey, got something really cool I wanted to run by and let you know what's going on. So I'm starting a group that will start taking a deep dive into each one of these episodes. So we'll collectively come together and talk about the shows, talk about the guests. I'll be bringing back some of the guests to do some Q&A sessions and really take a further dive into their story, their journey, the episode, talk about, maybe some of the things you wish I would have asked on the episodes, do some Q&A sessions and the like. As a friend put it to me, it's really like a book club, but for the podcast. So a couple times a week, we'll go in, we'll break down the favorite shows of the week, and have cool discussions around everything that we've heard, we've learned, and want to know about their journey. Some of these guests will come in and they'll teach part of, what makes them awesome at what they do. And then, as always, I'll be providing regular value and content in this group. It's really cool because this only is going to cost $5 a month to join this group. And you'll be able to come in, interact with everybody else in there. So I'll put a link right in the show notes for this that you can jump in, come have a conversation with us, and we will really deep dive into each one of these episodes and help us all rise up together. Thanks for tuning in, guys. It's going to be a great show today. Having the show wasn't something I started out to do. But the day I found out somebody wanted to really sponsor the show was a really, really cool experience. So, guys, I want you to take some time to go check out Point Blank Safety Services and their new nonprofit, Blue Family Fund. These guys are doing some really, really cool things. And Stacy McGovern, who's the CEO over there, has been a dear friend, and she was a guest on the show. But these guys are literally taking, the off-duty officers and putting them out in security guard role. And here's what's cool about it is, as they're protecting our lives, they don't make a whole lot of money in that regard. No first responders are paid for the value they provide for our safety and our health and taking care of us. So these guys, Stacy and her team over at Point Blank Safety Services have really found a cool way to give back to these officers by helping them provide an additional income so they can continue to support and protect us. So do me a favor, guys. Seriously, go check out pointblanksafety.com and then go look at their nonprofit, which is Blue Family Fund. Now, this nonprofit was created because of the success of Point Blank Safety Services. They wanted to give back to the families of fallen officers and be able to give scholarships away to the families of current, police officers. So do me a favor. It would mean the world to me if you would go out and help support this show by supporting Point Blank Safety Services and their nonprofit Blue Family Fund. Just tell them Donnie has sent you. You heard it on Donnie Success Champions, and Stacy will take a tremendous and amazing care of you. Thanks, guys.
Hey, champions. It's another kick-ass Friday. I'm back from Ireland. I've got some cool stories to share. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about all the stuff that I learned while on our 2 weeks in Ireland, traveling one of the most beautiful countries in the world, one of the cleanest countries in the world. And I'll tell you, I was mind blown by the hospitality and everything I got to see and experience there. So I'm going to walk straight through today everything that I learned while on my trip to Ireland and how it applies to business. Hey, champions. It's another kick-ass Friday. I'm back from Ireland. I've got some cool stories to share. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about all the stuff that I learned while on our 2 weeks in Ireland, traveling one of the most beautiful countries in the world, one of the cleanest countries in the world. And I'll tell you, I was mind blown by the hospitality and everything I got to see and experience there. So I'm going to walk straight through today everything that I learned while on my trip to Ireland and how it applies to business. So here we go, guys. Man, I got to tell you, that was one of the best vacations. And you know what? I'm going to try and I'm working on doing this. I'm trying to stop using the word vacation. When you go overseas, they no longer call it a vacation. They call it a holiday. So I'm really working on how do I get my mind 41 years of programming to flip my own script and start calling it a holiday. I mean, when you vacation, it sounds like you want to vacate something, which means you're running away from something, which means you're probably in a career or a life or something that you hate anyways. So I don't want to do that, right? I love what I do. I don't want to vacate what I'm doing. I want to take a holiday. And holiday reminds me of Christmas. Christmas is my favorite holiday. So, I digress. But Ireland, man, my wife and I went for basically 2 weeks and did a little business, had a little fun, and it was just an amazing, amazing experience. Now, this isn't our first trip overseas. It's technically our second. And, we went to the Bahamas already and did that whole routine, which was a lot of fun as well. And each of them came with their own stuff. But let me tell you what made this Irish trip just so fun. One, I learned a tremendous amount. I learned a lot about culture and people and how young the U.S. really, really is. All right, so picture this. Imagine you're driving down the freeway. And as you're going along, you just happen to glance left or right, and there sitting in a field is the ruins of an old castle. Yeah, it was pretty freaking cool. And I can't tell you how many times we turned off the road to go down some beaded path past cow pastures and sheep pastures and farmers on tractors to drive up and go walk through these ruins. It was flipping cool. And if you know anything about me, I get into all the fantasy stuff, the Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, Wheel of Time, if you've ever seen that, and Lord knows I love Game of Thrones. There was times in Ireland when I took pictures and graphics that I felt like I was walking onto a Game of Thrones set. I mean, my wife and I got an entire castle ruin. And gates you can walk through, archer windows and towers. Granite was crumbling and falling down. This thing was 3-4 stories. And you could see where the shops were. You could see where the grand halls were. You're there. And it was just her and I. No one else around because we were so far out in the country, driving on these basically one-lane roads, dodging cows and sheep and everything else. And we got to see and experience this moment. And, as geeking out a little bit is I'm in some of these castles, I'm thinking, no wonder they built this thing here, man. This is the best defensible, position in the world. You could see people from miles around. They're up on this hill. And it was funny, some of these castles had the story of how they fell into ruins. And I love the one where it's like, hey, the sun just let it go. He couldn't keep the money going. That's a problem with generational things sometimes, but we don't have that type of culture in the U.S. We're only, we're young as far as nations go, and it's just wild to be exposed to that. So, we rented a car. And we did a crazy kamikaze cross-country tour of Ireland. You ready? 1,500 miles in 9 days. That's what I drove. With, my wife sitting right next to me, usually, playing with the map or looking up locations, looking up different castles and things we could go tour. But 1,500 miles. We hit 90% of the country, and literally we crossed over 90% of the country. Only portion of Ireland we didn't go to was the southwest corner, so we're going to go back and do that one. But, otherwise, we hit every portion of Ireland you could go see. being a dumb American, and I say that lovingly just because of my ignorance, I didn't know Ireland was, is it countries? I don't know how it works, but the South Ireland is Ireland. Northern Ireland is part of the UK. I mean, it's a completely different currency. And we had no idea until we got into the UK, Northern Ireland, and went to buy something, and I had to go get another currency. So on this trip, I had euros, I had pounds, I had, US dollars, and we're going to do like we do it on all these trips. We brought back cash, and we're going to have it mounted and put up in our craft room. But it's just a wild experience. And, I really feel like Ireland makes a lot of their revenue off of tourism because there's no other reason people are that damn nice. I mean, we stayed in B&Bs, and I learned some new words. I even bought a license plate that says "feck it," which is, the really bad profanity word, but done Irish style. The first B&B host we had, and this guy was hilarious. I have no idea what he said, but he said "fuck it" and "feck it" like every third word. And it was hilarious. My wife and I went to dinner, and I don't know what he says, but I really like that guy. And we did what we always do. We traveled on our stomachs, small little bitty towns. We had destinations, like we had cities we needed to be in for our next B2B, but we didn't sign up any tours. We didn't sign up any things. It was basically wake up. What do you want to go do today? Now, Elizabeth did pick out the B&Bs by things that she wanted to go see, but nothing was set in stone. So we literally would just wake up 7 o'clock every morning, go eat breakfast at the bed and breakfast, and we were out the door by 9 o'clock and would go until we were just plumb wore out. 2 things. I never knew, one, how small of a country it is, but how much walking you do. Guys, I did a lot of what they called humps in the Marine Corps, which are just long walks with gear. I feel like I outwalked most of my humps that I did every day in Ireland. Because there is not a single thing you're going to go see that you're going to drive up to, the castle's front door. Nope. You're going to climb hills and stairs and valleys and walkways, and you're going to walk a ton. And I'm going to walk you through some of those sites and some of the things that we saw out there as I talk about just some of the things that we learned and how I'm applying it to business. But it was amazing. We only hit the big city once. We went to Dublin, and nobody drives in Dublin. I mean, that's not completely true. But everybody frickin' walks. And when I mean everybody walks, I mean you don't drive through Dublin well because you were going to be dodging pedestrians on the road. And, let me tell you, it's just a cool experience. So here we go. Things I learned that I am currently gearing up and or I am applying to my business. Number 1, get good shoes. Now, right before I went to Ireland, I was talking to a group of networking friends that I have, and I said, I'm fixing to go to Ireland. I'm going to have to buy an expensive pair of boots because I know we're going to do a lot of hiking. And one of my buddies stepped up and said, hey, I have a pair of boots. Why don't you just borrow mine? Awesome. So I did that. Unfortunately, they were a little bit too small, and I still had to go buy boots anyway. So, Daryl, thanks, buddy. I appreciate you. But get your boots back to you. But the smartest thing I did is I bought a really good pair of boots, and then I bought a really good pair of inserts because there was a ton of mileage to be covered and just a ton of area that we were going to walk through. And what I realized is, the boots are really, I think, the foundation of the body. When I went through the Marine Corps, it was my feet that screwed me up on everything. I've got the biggest wussy feet you've ever seen in your life, and I'm like a 2-year-old. I can walk 5 minutes and get frickin' stress fractures. That's how much my feet suck. And so I knew that I was going to have protection of my feet to last this trip. In Ireland specifically, if you're not able to walk, you're not seeing shit. I mean, you're literally not going to get around and be able to get to see the things you want to see. And there's a lot of things to see because it's just a completely different world. With the boots being the foundations, and I'm not a medical guy, and I'm sure my chiropractor buddies and my medical friends that listen to this show are going to bust my chops, but your feet are like the foundations of your body, just like they are the foundation of your business. And if you don't have a good foundation and you're not taking care of your damn feet, it's like you aren't prepared for the uphills and downhills that are coming your way. And there's a lot of uphills and downhills that will be coming your way because you don't know what you don't know. I mean, it was like in the Marine Corps, in any hump or hike that you went on, you'd always crest to the top of a hill, and you'd be looking at that crest, and you were like, as soon as I get there, it's over. It was the same thing as Ireland, man. As soon as I get there, I'm there. Hell no. As soon as you get to the crest, there's 3 more crests up ahead. They're not going to make this shit easy, but as I kept telling, myself and telling Elizabeth, is some of these castles and ruins we went to were newer, still ruins, but newer, and you could tell they were built so somebody could show off how much money they had. Okay? Then there were the castles that were built for defense, and the shock and awe of it, right? Either way, they weren't easy to get to. And you're going to be walking through cow pastures. You're going to be walking through God knows what. The one ruins that we really spent a lot of time in by ourselves, not only did you have to walk through pastures and trails and hills, the gates weren't there, but the frames for the gate, and when I'm talking about gate, I'm talking 10 foot tall, 12 foot tall, the round opening where it looked like a drawbridge should have went. That type of gate opening, there was 2 of them. So you had to walk through one, which put you in the main courtyard, and then walk through the second one, which got you into the castle. So the whole thing was you're going to walk. And what I was thinking about as I was doing all this walking, and I was, really concerned with how my feet were going to hold up through this process, is I realized if you don't take care of your foundation, you don't take care of the basics of your business, you're in trouble. And it made me really think about how have I structured my foundation of my business to make sure I can handle the upswings, the downswings, the uphills, the downhills, you crest to the top of a hill and be prepared to go to the next, and the unexpected walks that you didn't see coming. How are you going to prepare for all of that stuff? And for me, I started thinking that some of my foundations of my business aren't in the best place. I'm not taking care of some of the basics. So I came home, and that's all I've been doing is working on what are the basics of my business? What are my foundations that I've got to get in place? And, some of it is operational flow when I'm doing the social content for companies, and we're going in and we're taking over their social media and we're helping them out with the content creation. Is what's that process and flow, right? It's still a little loose. Right now I'm building in the system to be able to handle that process and flow. And then I realized, and which is funny because I'm a sales guy, that my business development process doesn't have a process. Was been shooting from the hip and just tackling what's in front of me. And guys, I taught sales for years. And this is elementary stuff, but when you're running your own business, you get caught up in minutia and you don't take care of the foundational basics. So I'm building out what's my sales process right now. And then the biggest foundational thing that I keep finding, and I think it's a struggle for most small business owners, is I am working in the business and not on the business. I'm doing too many of the deliverables because I haven't put the foundational piece in play to get that off of my plate. I should be doing business development and growing the company, not sitting in here doing projects and deliverables. So that's another foundational piece I'm putting into my company, and part of it's going to be coming in the form of a virtual assistant. I'm working through that and, how to pay for those type of services and figure that out. And, what I've learned in hiring other vendors and partners and as such is I've got to be able to tell them what I need, because I'm really the guy who wants to say, okay, here's a project, you want it, do it, bring it back to me, and we'll discuss what it looks like. If I like it, cool, we'll run with it. If we don't, we won't run with it. That doesn't really work well, because I've found that 90% of people don't want to just take the risk of being creative on their own for fear that it's wasted time or anything. So in lieu of finding that type of people and clients and vendors I want to work with now, the two vendors I work with now are freaking amazing. Laura, who does my writing, Joe, who does the editing for the podcast. I don't tell them shit. I literally hand them an assignment or a project, and they take it. And what I love is they have full autonomy to make adjustments. If they think something doesn't work right, they make the adjustments. I mean, Joe and I have talked about this in the past, and you're going to hear him on one of our upcoming episodes, that literally, he gets to the point that if he really wants to reach out and ask me something, he kind of just says, what would Donnie do? And he goes with it. I'm 100% cool with that. I have a respect for what he does. Right. And the dude has been badass and bailed me out of some shit. So I love that I found those assets for the company. So you have to take care of your foundation. I mean, you seriously have to make sure that the base stuff is in place. Your accounting, your operational, your sales, your marketing. I think those really are your foundational business core things. And what I found in my time I got to contemplate walking through Ireland is I don't have the foundations really mapped out for my business. So that's what I'm doing now, and putting those things in place so I can get out and sell more. Because without sales, your business is going to die. And, with any business my business is sustainable. But now it's got to kick up and grow. So that was really kind of my biggest takeaway on, one of the biggest lessons learned out of Ireland. The second one is get a good jacket. My wife, God love her, was so smart to go and say, hey, I've looked at the weather, I've researched Ireland, let's go get a couple of really nice rain jackets. So we did. We went to a local store and we got a couple of heavy duty, but not heavyweight, heavy duty rain jackets with liners and hoods and everything else, because we saw a funny sign, or maybe it was a shirt in Ireland that said the 4 seasons of Ireland, and it was all represented by sheep. And summer, you had a sheep with the sunglasses on, winter, you had a sheep with a scarf on, so it fit all the seasons. But every one of them was holding an umbrella, right? Because it's going to rain every day. And it rained on us every day in Ireland. But it doesn't do the nasty downpour, especially like we get in Texas. It rains for like 2 minutes and then goes away. Now, when it does rain, I mean, it stayed in the 50s and 60s the entire time we're in Ireland. But when it does rain, it gets bitterly damn cold, and then it kind of warms up. Well, there was 2 days we really needed our jacket. But one day that we wouldn't have made it to get our jackets, there's a rope bridge in Ireland. And this thing is so, so cool. And I'll put a picture of it in the show notes. But basically fishermen had no way outside of boats to get to the good fishing spots. Well, a couple fishermen got together, and there was basically a small island off of Ireland. And then on the end of that tip, there was a rock that goes out. The fishermen knew if they could get to that secondary rock that was, I don't know, it looks like a 70-foot drop in between these two big-ass boulders. If they could get over there, they could probably get to some better fishing. So they build this rope bridge, and I'm going to make up numbers, but it's probably 50 to 75 feet across and a 75-foot drop. Somebody's going to come back and correct me and like, no, it's exactly 62.3 and in that world meters or whatever. But who cares, right? So it's a big rope bridge, big drop, okay? And once again, it's a long-ass walk to get out there. I mean, you are full-on hiking. Now, look, if you're a runner and you're a professional hiker, I realize that it's probably not even a full kilometer walk to get out to this damn thing. But when you're an out-of-shape guy like me, that's a long damn walk, especially going up and down hills and steps and everything else. So don't send me the emails of how much of a wuss I am because I can't walk that far. Right? But to get out to this rope bridge, you are on the ocean, walking on cliffs. It's sprinkling, raining, 50 degrees out. Thank God we had jackets. Because as we got out there, it got cold. I mean, the pictures of, Elizabeth and I that we took while we were up there, doing the couple selfie. She's in a boggin in this heavy raincoat, and we were bundled up like a couple of freaking Eskimos. And now these jackets aren't that damn heavy, but they were warm. The coolest thing these jackets had, and I hadn't seen this on a jacket, is they had that cool lining on the inside, but as you put your hands through the sleeves, they had fingerless mittens basically built in. So the lining went out with your hands and your thumbs went through, and so half the lining covered everything. But dude, when you're out there 50 degrees in the rain on a cliff walking across a 70-foot rope bridge, you're glad you have a damn jacket. Because most times in Ireland, dude, when we were walking around, people looked at us like we were crazy because we're in blue jeans and T-shirts. Because we're from Texas, and 50, 60 degrees is just amazing damn weather. But if you live in a country and your body's acclimated to that world, there was people burning their fireplaces at 50, 60 degrees. And Elizabeth and I were going crazy that somebody had a fireplace going and we're out in T-shirts. But that's just how our bodies are acclimated to the weather we're used to. So having these jackets was really like a level of protection from the elements. Which really got me thinking about my business is, what am I doing to protect what I have so I can encompass the foundation of my business and keep everything together? What I realize is with my business, I don't have a lot of protection around processes, procedures. I don't have, solid follow-up systems with clients and everything else. I've run this kind of by the seat of my pants. And so now I'm trying to say, okay, this isn't scalable, and it's actually kind of scary because I don't have the assets in place to be able to protect my business. So, knowing that I had that jacket, which kept me protected from the cold and the rain, and it was something that I could easily take off or adapt to a situation, I'm doing the same thing with my business now. I'm trying to put in different layers and processes that allow me to scale and grow the company and scale and grow the business and be able to push forward and do better things with my company. So, for instance, some of the things that we're putting in place is, what's the marketing look like? The process look like for the company, whether it be on Facebook social or Instagram social? What's the networking look like? How am I protecting how I bring on new guests to the show, because one of the things that I've realized is the methodology I use to bring on guests on the show is solid, and I'm getting some good, phenomenal guests, and I love hearing their stories, but it's not protected. Right? It's literally, if somebody found the link, they could just sign up for my show. So I'm working on through how do I protect that process so I don't get just tore up by assholes that want to screw with me, right? So what are those things I can do to protect the assets of my company and make sure they're taken care of so I have them in the future? Right, so that was really a cool thought that I thought about while I was over in Ireland. The next thing that was an absolute lifesaver is we got a GPS on the car. Now, a couple of things. Driving on the other side of the road was not my first time to do that. I did it while I was in the military a couple times. I smashed an LVS into a side of a mountain. Got pictures for that if you ever want to see it. But driving on the wrong side of the road, and I say wrong side because us dumb Americans have to do everything different than everybody else. And driving on the wrong side of the road, literally when we got the car, they said, here's your rental. Go. Here's your GPS. Go. There was no, hey, make sure you drive on the left. There was no little road test. Maybe you drive around the parking lot a couple times. Hell no. They hand you the keys and the GPS, and they just said, have fun. See you, when you're done. So we jump in the car, load it up, and we go. And you're immediately on a major road. And for the record, a major road in Ireland is 4 lanes, 2 on one side, 2 on the other. Most roads in Ireland are 2-lane, oncoming traffic. One going one way, one going the other. I mean, that's most roads in Ireland. With one caveat: the further you go in the country, it's not really a 2-lane. It's a road, brick walls, not brick, rock walls. They hand you the keys and say go. Thank God we had a GPS. So, although the GPS couldn't pull up everything, but our cell phone service dropped to about 2G speeds. And when you're used to 4G or faster, we're an instant gratification world. When you're used to that kind of speed, thank God we got the GPS, because there was no way in hell my patience would have lasted waiting on a damn cell phone to keep up, even though we had to use it a couple times because we couldn't find the destination. We're in bumfuck freaking farm country, so your GPS is not going to get everywhere. And Waze didn't work over there because it just couldn't keep up. I mean, I'm sure in certain areas, so we use Google Maps for everything. But I know that the first night we got there, we went and saw Blarney Castle. We went and checked in our B&B. We had a great dinner. We met the next morning a nice couple from California, and we got talking with them. And the guy asked me, he goes, how's the drive? And I said, well, really, it's not that bad. I mean, first little bit got jittery. And you could see he was almost pale. And he's like, oh, yeah, it's tough. Don't go through Dublin. Don't drive through Dublin. He goes, there's people, they die, drive. Don't go through Dublin. And he was really kind of nervous telling us about that. I'm nervous enough that when Elizabeth and I decided to go to Dublin, I told her, I said, babe, maybe we should get close and just take a train the rest of the way in, which we didn't do. I ended up driving in. And, dude, Dublin was so easy to drive through. If you've driven through any major city in the U.S., Dublin is a cakewalk, okay, just so you know. But this guy and his wife, they didn't get a GPS on their car. They just had a map. Now, I don't know how many of you have ever tried to do a drive by using a map. I know my older listeners, no big deal. My younger listeners are like, what the hell's a map? But they tried to do Ireland with a map and made it 2 days after getting lost in little towns and having to ask for directions and getting turned around and getting on roads that they had no idea where the hell to go. Because in Ireland, there's not that many street signs. So it's not like you can go, oh, I'm at corner such and such and such and such. No, your directions are go to the big house on the corner, turn left at the third tree. When you get there, you're going to see a broken down, burned down church. Turn right there. It's not go to Avenue B and turn left, and then when you get to Smith Street, turn right. Now, it's all done by landmarks. And they tried to do Ireland this way. So not only was he nervous, extremely nervous about the driving, now he freaking had to navigate by nothing but a map that is such ancient technology because we've been ruined by GPSs and computers. They were completely destroyed, so they actually had to find their way back to the car rental place and get a GPS. So it was really, for me, having that GPS was just a navigational genius for us. I can tell you that without that GPS, it wouldn't have been as an enjoyable a trip. Two things allowed us to do. Our longest day we spent driving was over 6 hours. We drove from Northern Ireland down to the Galway area, Connemara area, and it was a 6-hour drive in the car. And it was the only day we didn't really go see a whole lot of sights and stuff. We did stop at a couple places, but that was a long drive. But one of the things that kept us sane in that journey, because the radio sucks in Ireland. Their radio stations are horrible. Sorry, Ireland, but their radio station sucks. One extra little thing bonus, if you're going to Ireland, holy cow, go get an MP3 player or download a shit ton of music on your phone because you're going to want it. Because literally the radio stations would go from country to techno, some weird musical stuff to hillbilly twang. All of a sudden, you'd go from Dolly Parton to not Metallica, sure they wasn't there, but some sort of dance hip hop thing. It was wild. The music was out there. And so the GPS, not only did it give us a navigational tool that was a complete huge asset for us, but Elizabeth liked looking at the map, which gave her something to do along the way. And so there was a lot of times when you're looking at the GPS, you're looking at the map, you could really kind of validate where we were going, how we were going to get there, what it looked like, what we were going to pass, what cities were coming up, And the great thing is on the map, all the castles are marked, all the abbeys are marked, so all the ruins are marked. So we could be coming up out of town, and Elizabeth could quickly look at the map and go, hey, remember, internet's really slow over there. Right? So she could look at the map and go, hey, there's this stuff here. I'm like, cool, let's go see it. So we would just turn off the road and go drive basically through some farmers' fields. It was nice paved roads, so when we were through those fields, and go see it. What that really helped me figure it out with my company is something I've always known, right? Is you got to have your navigation in place for your business. You got to know where you're going and how you're going to get there, but you also need those little side maps along the way so you can look at what's coming up ahead and decide if you want to make that move or not. And what I realized from my company is, although I have visions of where I want to go, I don't necessarily have the waypoints, all the milestones in place to make sure I'm going to get there, so I can look up ahead and go, okay, that's coming. What do I need to do for it? So that's what I'm putting in place for my company now, or what are those waypoints, those milestones that I need to put in place so I can keep my company on the right path. I can tell you, without the GPS and the map sitting next to us, we would not have made 1,500 miles in Ireland. There's absolutely no way, because I haven't read a map really in a long time, and Elizabeth did an amazing job doing it, but we haven't spent that much time traveling that way, and the roads aren't marked, and they use these roundabouts everywhere. there's very few stoplights except for maybe when you get into towns. So they use roundabouts. And these roundabouts weren't necessarily marked on the map we had. So the GPS would really say at the roundabout, take the third exit. And you had to get used to going all the way around the circle and getting off the roundabout, or which her and I still joke about at the roundabout, say at the roundabout, go straight on. We're like, what the hell does straight on mean? But it was an absolute lifesaver and kind of a lifeline for us because we knew it was coming up ahead and we could decide how we wanted to handle it when we get there. So I'm putting that into my business of what can I look at up ahead and so I can decide to make moves. So I'm putting in the milestones of things I need to accomplish and levels I want my company at certain spots. And then I'm also putting in, what conferences do I want to go to? What events do I want to be a part of? What things do I want to do so I can be prepared for what's coming on, up ahead and be able to make adjustments for it. Those were the three major takeaways, three major things that I learned while in Ireland, man. And I can't tell you enough how awesome of a trip it was. It really makes me bring my vision true of that I will someday build a large castle on my property just because I want to. And I told Elizabeth not even to live in, just to turn it into a destination type thing. But, guys, as you're going through your journey, and I love telling people, that Ireland trip cost us less than $8,000 to do. My sister-in-law, Kim Boivin, did an amazing job finding us phenomenal tickets. She did an amazing job, helping us get everything figured out and taken care of. So if you need a travel agent, she's your girl. But I would tell you that it was an inexpensive trip to go on. And we could have even done it less money than that if we had so desired. We just like to travel on our stomachs. So every dinner was at least $100, right? But flights and stays, even staying in a castle, it was inexpensive trip. So what I'll tell you is, even if you can't go on a big trip, take a small vacation. You, your partner, and just go have a good time. For us, it was great because we didn't have, cell phones really. So I couldn't work on a whole lot of business. So it was turned off. So we got to catch up and talk, which was, the other thing that I learned from my business is spend time with your partners. Spend time with your loved ones and make sure that relationship stays strong and intact. But all in all, guys, for me, Ireland was another proving ground that I can learn something everywhere. And the absolute coolest thing I learned from my business was I met a gentleman who ran a store in the Connemara area of Ireland. And we got talking, and it's a cool store. We bought a bunch of stuff there. And at that store, he was just one of those guys, and it was really nice, and walked us through, answered any questions we had. And I got to talk to him about his business. I'm like, do you have social media? He goes, to what point? I said, well, do you have stuff set up on your site? He goes, no, I don't need it. And I said, well, you should at least have, a website and a Facebook page and, should go. He goes, no, not really. He goes, I'm happy. I've got enough business coming through. I got enough people that see my shop that I don't need to advertise. His store is really on the main drag, if you will, of that entire area. And he asked me what I did, and I said, I'm a podcaster. And I love telling people I'm a podcaster just because of whatever happens next is usually pretty cool. They usually get excited and want to know more, and which is kind of what he did. And I said, he goes, what do you podcast about? And I said, well, I love hearing people's stories, their journeys. What have they went through? What have they survived? What have they overcome? What have they created? And he goes, that's pretty cool. What's the name of it? And so I told him Donnie Success Champions, and he wrote it down. He goes, I want you to remember one thing. I said, okay. He goes, when you get to the point where you like, why the hell am I still doing this? I want you to think about a guy who walks 6 kilometers every day with his dog in the mountains of Ireland. I want you to remember that at least that one guy is listening to the show. And I thought, damn, that is a really cool way to look at it. I love everybody who does listen to the show. It's really, really cool way. But knowing that the reach of this audience is expanded so far it is, and the lives that have been touched by this podcast, dude, it warms the heart knowing that this many people are tuning into the show. So as always, I love you guys. Thank you so much. If you get a chance, go to Ireland. Most beautiful country we've been to. Just phenomenal. Just awesome. So, guys, go big and loud. Go do something so great in your business that it shocks the system so much that you break through to the next level. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.
You know what, guys? Really, thank you for listening to this episode. I really appreciate it. It's a lot of fun putting these together. I wanted to make sure before we get out of here that you knew what we were doing with social content. What we found was because of the podcast, we have a unique way of helping you get your social content out on a very easy way. What we're doing is we're interviewing people. And from that interview, we will capture a lot of information that will then be turned into videos, memes, articles, all things you can use for your social content. I know, like for me, one of the biggest struggles I had was, what do I put out there? What do I say on a regular basis? Well, we'll help do all that for you. So if this is at all of interest to you, reach out to us and let us help you grow your social media channel. I can tell you I did this for my business, and my social media is completely taking off. My Instagram, since I started doing this, jumped over 10,000 followers, and it continues to grow. So if this is at all of interest to you, check the bottom of the show notes for the link that says, "Get my social content done right now."